So next we have a presentation from Eawag. So it's a recorded presentation, so we'll be playing that. But folks from Eawag are on the Zoom call. They are listening to us from. I'll quickly introduce them. Dr. Christian Binz, Research Group Leader. Mr. Johan Miörner, Researcher, and Bernhard Truffer, Researcher at Eawag. Eawag is Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Research and Technology. It is one of the world's leading aquatic research institutes. Their work extends beyond Switzerland, impacting global water science. So Eawag is part of the ETH domain, which includes Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich and Lausanne, along with research institutes like PSI, EMPA, and WSL. We also have Dr. Josiane Cole, who is come here for this session.
On the challenges to water reuse in Bengaluru. And we have worked on several fronts to identify different challenges or barriers to well-functioning water reuse systems, including also, let's say, technological and governance aspects of user acceptance and so on. In this presentation, though, we will focus on two dimensions where there has been quite some things happening recently. So one has been the lack of functioning markets, where this recent change substantially changed the playing field for innovators in this domain. And the other is a lack of financial incentives for RWAs and firms to move into this field of water reuse. So these two dimensions come together in a very interesting way when we zoom in on the business models that actually already exists in Bengaluru, and which existed also before this policy change, which some of them already deliver value to RWAs. And now with these recent developments, they might have a further potential to scale. So what we have done is to zoom in on 4 different business models that focus on water reuse and that include RWAs as a key actor. So both as producers of treated wastewater and sometimes also as consumers of reused water. So in our analysis, we have been zooming in on what the business model, or in some cases, what combination of business models that needs to be in place and that needs to be profitable in order to deliver value to firms on the one hand and to end users on the other hand. So for each model, we have mapped the key actors, the resources that these actors need, the activities that they engage in, the markets that needs to be developed, and here, of course, this recent development is very interesting. We have also mapped the costs and revenue structures of firms and the value that is delivered to clients. So in this presentation, we will focus primarily on the RWA side of the equation. So I will focus on presenting the 4 different business models, and then I will try to walk you through the value propositions on the RWA side of things. We basically outlined 4 different models where we distinguish between high and service quality water and between on and off-site reuse. And I will describe these 4 different combinations in more detail. But we start by defining water qualities quite loosely and basically just distinguish between water of service quality that can be used off-site in, for example, the construction industry, or on-site for toilet flushing and gardening and so on. And water of a high quality, referring not necessarily to potable water, but water that can be used for applications that have more strict water requirements, such as off-site reuse in laundries and cooling towers that might need a low TDS water, or on-site in swimming pools or for general household reuse. And what I will present in the coming slides is based on a large number of assumptions. Of course, there is some guesswork involved. The idea here is not to give exact calculations, but to give a sense of the kind of current and future potential of different already existing business models. We would, of course, in general, also be very happy to receive comments and a type of reality check on these numbers. And as I know that many of you that are listening to this in the workshop are of course experts on these topics. In the presentation, we also do not mention the names of firms or RWAs that we have talked to. And the numbers that we present, they don't directly correspond to any real-world examples. But they are, of course, based on our extensive discussions and meetings with firms and RWAs in Bengaluru during the last few years. So if you want to get in touch with a particular service provider, I'm sure WellLabs can help you put you in touch with the relevant firms. So to support our presentation, we have come up with a few fictive examples of RWAs. So as I said, these are not based on kind of a one-to-one real-world case, but we have found inspiration for many of the RWAs that we have talked to over the years. So let's start by introducing the example RWA1, which we would then say is an RWA that consists of approximately 400 apartments. They use 180 kVs of water every day, and then also produce 180 kVs of wastewater. And they have 3 bore wells that together yield about 100 kV, so they are quite well endowed with borewell water. And they buy the remaining balance of 80 kVs from water tankers at the price of approximately 120 rupees per kiloliter, which is then a yearly average of the price they pay. They then pay approximately 40,000 rupees per month for STP, operation and maintenance. And currently, at the initial stage here in the example, they don't reuse any water, even if they have dual piping and they have a fairly sized garden, because the STP is not working very well, the water is smelly, and they often have problems with running the STP. So currently, they are not paying for transporting away excess water to comply with the zero liquid discharge mandate, but they are thinking about it, so it's in the realm of possibilities. And this is a point that will come back quite a lot during the calculations. So basically, based on these figures, we can estimate that the monthly combined freshwater and STP maintenance costs would be approximately 3.3 lakhs per month. And this is if we don't take into account costs associated with transporting away any water to fulfill the zero liquid discharge mandate. So this is the kind of assumptions that we have made for each table that I will present. And I will not have really time to present all these assumptions in detail, and it will also be quite overwhelming for you as an audience. But we hope to have constructed fairly realistic examples that demonstrate the current and future potential of the different business models. So the first model we cover is service quality on-site reuse. So this is focused on enabling on-site water reuse for toilet flushing, for gardening, and so on. You're, of course, very familiar with this. And this requires a well-functioning STP, but we know from previous studies and our experiences that many, or maybe even most, STPs are not functioning very well. So in this first business model, we focus on post-construction service firms and contractors that offer various refurbishment services where they go in and rectify a poorly functioning STP and then follow up by providing high-quality O&M services. So basically, they go in and they rectify an existing STP, which would then enable on-site reuse of this type of service quality water. So here we look into an example where one such post-construction service firm approach our example RWA1. So they offer to refurbish their STP at the cost of approximately 50 lakhs. Then they would take over the operation and maintenance of the plant at a cost that would be approximately 2.5 times higher than the previous cost of operation and maintenance. So the value proposition for the RWA in this model is that then they could start to reuse treated wastewater instead of buying tanker water. So if we run the numbers, we can see that they actually decrease their monthly total costs with about 50%, which means that they will recover their capital investment in about 3.5 years. And this is also if we do not take the cost of transporting away water to comply with the zero liquid discharge mandate into account. And of course, there are also other non-financial benefits, and most importantly, perhaps, the fact that the RWA, after this refurbishment, they don't release polluted or semi-polluted water into the environment. And this fact should, of course, not be underestimated as a driver, but as far as we have seen so far, it is perhaps not enough as a driver for rectifying malfunctioning plants. But with this short return on investment, we think that the total package is still quite appealing, despite the higher O&M cost. The service quality off-site reuse model is then focused on exploiting underutilized but well-treated wastewater from RWAs. So it is dependent on an already well-functioning STP. And then to transport this treated water to industries or to construction sites that are in need of water. So the key actors in this configuration are, of course, the RWAs that are equipped with these well-functioning plants, but also a wastewater broker that would match supply and demand, and a tanker operator that transports the water to an industry. And of course, the broker and the tanker operator can be the same actor. So basically, the wastewater broker would use knowledge about well-maintained STPs and then match them with industry needs within a certain radius. And to the RWA, then they will offer an extra income, and to the construction site, they offer cheaper water and also more stable supply and more stable prices. And to organize the transport, this broker also needs skill in navigating the competition from other established tanker companies. So here we show a case where the example RWA from the previous example, so it's still the same RWA that has recently rectified their STP. They strike a deal with the wastewater broker to sell their excess treated wastewater. So the RWA actually gets paid for the water. This could be in the range of 10 to 15 rupees per kiloliter. And here we don't go into the firm side of the equation, but let's assume that the buyer of the treated wastewater, that the broker has a buyer already, and that they can make profit from this operation. So if we take this example RWA from the previous slide, and they now sell the remaining balance of wastewater to the broker, that generates an income for the RWA. So if we compare this to the initial situation, the RWA has now reduced their monthly combined freshwater and STP costs by more than 60%. Or if we take the transport costs for complying with zero liquid discharge mandate into account, even up to 75% less. And the months that it takes for the RWA to recover the capital investment for the refurbishment, because they had to do that, PSU, in order to start selling the water, is down from 25 months from 30 months, and it's only 13 months if we consider zero liquid discharge mandate associated transport costs. So the third model aims to enable off-site reuse of water for a broader range of applications than flushing and gardening and other service type water uses. So in principle, this could be everything up to potable reuse, But what we have seen so far is examples of RWAs using treated water for swimming pools, or, which is maybe more common, RWAs where there has been a reluctance of using standard, if you want, treated wastewater for toilet flushing, and especially for toilet flushing, and where they would like to kind of ensure a very high water quality also for service uses of water. So the key actors in this configuration, in this model, include firms that develop these advanced water recycling systems and that install them at RWAs. So for the RWA, they will pay rent for the space. They typically cover all installation and operation costs. And this firm will then make money by selling high-quality water back to the RWA in this on-site version of this model. So first, we leave the first RWA example behind, and we instead introduce a second example RWA, which we would then assume has a more constrained initial water situation than our first example RWA. So we assume that this example RWA2 is basically the same size as the first one, but they get only a very small amount of let's say 20 KLDs of water from bore wells, so they have to buy most of their water from tankers. They also have a swimming pool, which of course increases the water uses. And currently, they don't reuse any water for gardening or toilet flushing because they are concerned about health issues, even though their STP is working quite well. Let's then say that there is a firm that offers to install this high-quality recycling system, and they pay for all the O&M, and they also pay a small rent to the RWA for the space that the system takes into account. So even though the RWA know that the water that is produced in this system is of a very high quality, initially they will only use it for service quality reuse purposes. And then after discussions and reassurances and some testings, they will also start using it for filling the swimming pool. So in this example, after installing the system, they would save approximately 50,000 rupees per month without taking the zero liquid discharge transport into account. And this is even at this rather low volume of reuse. So of course, the more applications that they would start using this high quality water for, the less reliant they would be on tanker water for their water needs. So in the ideal future case, they would then be able to use like the other example RWA, to use the service quality water for toilet flushing and gardening, and water from this additional recycling system for many other household purposes, and not only for filling the swimming pool. So in addition to some financial savings for the RWA, it's a way of future-proofing the water situation at the RWA and increase the water security and water resilience for the residents of the apartment complex. So finally, we cover the high-quality off-site reuse configuration. And we will not say very much about this. It's essentially an extension of the on-site configuration or model, with the addition that the provider of the water recycling system also identifies industrial clients off-site that have a high need for very specific water qualities. So for the RWA, the value proposition would actually be the same as in the previous model or similar. And for the industry, the water recycling firm can promise a very consistent quantity and quality of water at a fixed price, which gives them long-term water security. So, to conclude, I will just give a few key points. So, first of all, there is really already in some cases, a clear value proposition for RWAs in all these business models. So the return on investment can be rather quick, and when making the necessary investments, RWAs can also enjoy increased water security, water resilience, and they can also feel good about reducing their environmental impact. So when focusing purely on cost, investments in service quality water reuse has a return on investment in less than 25 months. And when focusing on water resilience, if you already have a well-functioning SDP, the current models that we find have actually an immediate return on investment. But there might be challenges to scaling this model on the firm side of things. Maybe at least in terms of how quickly these systems can be installed at RWAs at the current kind of rate of operations. So finally, the impact of this new policy, which allows RWAs to resell 50% of their treated wastewater, is of course yet to be seen. It's a very new change, but in our view, there's now a very clear incentive emerging to combine both on-site and off-site reuse, so that the two groups of business models become more integrated. So we actually foresee quite a lot of interesting developments and also some space for innovative business models in the time to come. So with that, I will thank you very much for your attention, and I of course invite you to get in touch if you have any questions or comments on this presentation.
So we'll try to get them online, maybe max 2 questions. We're running out of time. Can you hear us? Okay. So any questions? Yep. You want to say a few words, then we can take questions. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Christian, Johan, nice to see you guys. Thanks for a very crisp presentation. I don't know if you can see me. I've just stood up. Nice to see you guys. I think it's a little early for you. Okay. Hi. Okay. So one of the questions I had, I mean, this is very insightful because this will create a good template for building, as you said, further blended models, business models, now that the on-site and off-site use case is going. One of the questions that I had is, did you also consider costs in terms of compliance costs also in doing these calculations? Because there's also that that element of that piece. I mean, of course, in the recent times, that has increased a bit, and there has been queries from our members to say, you know, what does that mean? But I just wanted to understand, saying that, does that also blend into this costing model, which is, there's a application fee for consent and stuff like that?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume that they are a fairly low share of the total investment costs and total running costs. But if I'm not correct, then of course we will have to do that. So the only kind of compliance cost that we included was what I mentioned in the presentation. So if you want to comply with the zero liquid discharge mandate, but you're not reusing all the water on site, you will have to in principle pay for the transport of getting it away. And this really has a huge impact on the calculations. But fees and so on we didn't consider.
Got it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right in that it is not as large in comparison to the other cost dimensions that you have evaluated, but nevertheless still, I mean, something which creates a behavioral barrier, right? So in terms of, I think my point is, and this is something that we can work together as well. I'm sure, I mean, now that you have templatized this, it becomes much easier to tweak it to include all kinds of implications. But yeah, I mean, compliance is something that we can also add so that it makes it easy for people to, in the overall scheme of things, understand the cost and ROI. I mean, we have now known in BAF that if you talk a ROI language, a lot of things flow faster. And we have seen this in the solar energy space, where few years back when we were able to build a calculator, right, which included all aspects and then made the understanding of this template very simple for them, right, to say that, hey, this is how your investment is, this is how it is, and these are all the other environmental, etc. consideration. But having said that, in so many months, you will be net positive on your investment. That makes it easy, because in a resident welfare association ecosystem, the decision making on investments on etc. is a very complicated process. There are 200 people who have to come together to approve that. Oftentimes we have noticed that if you make it extremely simple and that process gets then accelerated much faster. That's about it. So in BF, I think we would want to work on, with your support and help, creating very specific templates so that it can be sent to people. It makes it easy for them to then act upon it.
Exchange on this. We're also thinking about making some form of calculator, which in the best of worlds also could be made public in the end, right? But
that will be excellent. That will be excellent.
So, but it would be great to work together on this, also to get your input on all the kind of moving parts in such an Excel sheet, right? Because we have made it very simple here, only taking into account the kind of major costs. But we know, of course, that there are so many things that we are either not aware of or that we have just not taken into the current calculations. But let's work on this.
Fantastic. Thank you, Johan. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Johan, and thank you, Christian.